Hello everyone. The video today is about vitamin B3, also known as niacin. Somebody posted a question on one of my other videos saying, I'm wondering if you would consider doing a video on niacin. What is a niacin flush, benefits, etc. And why not? I'm happy to talk about niacin. Vitamin B3 is really, really important. All of our B vitamins are, well, all of our vitamins are important. Vitamin B3 is crucially important when we talk about energy production pathways in the mitochondria. Mitochondria being the energy producing units in our cells, basically makes 90% of all the energy for all the cellular functions in our bodies. Vitamin B3 is a really important component of that. Anyone who might remember back to high school biology class or undergraduate biology class or whatever biology classes you took before learning about cellular function and energy production, there are these molecules called NAD and NADH, and another one called NADPH, and those are basically vitamin B3 derivatives. So if you may recall, again, from biology class, or maybe you don't, the glycolysis and the Krebs cycle are basically responsible for generating molecules of NADH and FADH. The FADH is a vitamin B2 derivative, NADH being vitamin B3, and then those ultimately transfer the electrons that they carry into something called the electron transport chain, also part of the mitochondria, and then that's what ultimately drives the synthesis of ATP. So vitamin B3 is crucially important for energy synthesis, so it's very, very important for that reason. With vitamin B3, there are different forms of it. So if you were to go on, Google Images or something like that, and just type in, different forms of vitamin B3 or vitamin B3 conversion or something like that, then you'd see some images come up where you see that, vitamin B3 can get converted into something called niacinamide, vitamin B3 is kind of like a blanket term for a number of different subtypes of this particular vitamin. So there's niacin, also known as nicotinic acid. There's niacinamide. There is nicotinamide riboside. There is NAD, which is a nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide. There's NADH, which is the same thing, just it's in a reduced form with an extra hydrogen molecule on it. There's another version called NMN, so nicotinamide mononucleotide. So there's a bunch of different subtype forms, if you will, that vitamin B3 can interconvert with. And I think I've posted a video before, or maybe mentioned it in some other videos before, that some folks will say, the best form of vitamin B3 is nicotinamide riboside, or it's taking supplemental NAD, or there's intravenous NAD. There's different forms of it out there that can be taken, and a lot of them are for some of them, the ones that are beyond just like your regular old niacin or niacinamide, some folks talk about them being just much more bioavailable, much more effective. As I've talked about in some of my other videos and actually some of my podcast episodes as well, if you don't know, I have a podcast called the Overcoming Chronic Illness Podcast, available on all major podcast platforms. I also post all the episodes on my YouTube video as well, or YouTube channel rather as well. I haven't really seen a whole lot of benefit from these different forms of vitamin B3, whether it's intravenous NAD, whether it's oral NAD, whether it's nicotinamide riboside. I've had a few patients who do seem to do better with that therapy, but I've not found it to be like a huge game changer, unfortunately. So I know some of my podcast guests have found it to be helpful with their patients, but it's just something where it's kind of haven't really been I've not been overwhelmingly impressed with the results so far, unfortunately. So when I recommend vitamin B3 to my patients, I usually recommend it in the form of niacinamide, as per usual. Nothing I'm saying should be construed as medical advice. This is for informational purposes only. If you need medical advice, please talk to your healthcare provider to get that advice. I like the niacinamide because it doesn't cause a niacin flush, as was asked about in the question. What is a niacin flush? If a person takes just regular niacin, also, again known as nicotinic acid, it will, if the person's not used to it, it will cause this flushing sensation. It basically, to my understanding, causes this vasodilation, and that increased blood flow to our skin causes this very warm feeling, this flushing feeling, and oftentimes it's associated with a lot of itchiness. And that niacin flush can last for quite a while. It can sometimes last for a couple of hours. My now wife, then girlfriend, when we were dating back in naturopathic school, we took some niacin together one time just to see what it felt like, and we were so uncomfortable for about 2 hours afterwards. I distinctly remember the memory, and I'm glad we got to share that experience together. It really solidified our relationship, I think. But it's not a pleasant sensation. Now, folks can build up a tolerance to the niacin flush and get up to taking robust dosages of it, but if they take a break even for a day or so, then they go right back to square one and they have to build up their tolerance all over again. So that is the story behind the niacin flush. So forms of vitamin B3, like really any other form, does not have that flushing side effect. So that's why I prefer the niacinamide form. It seems to get the job done in terms of giving the body more of that vitamin B3 that it needs. It doesn't cause any flushing. It's inexpensive, so it just checks off all the boxes for me. Let's see here. I think that I largely covered the question, the mini questions within the overarching question. So if the person asking the question, if you have any other questions about vitamin B3 that I didn't answer, please feel free to post in the comment section below. If anybody else has any questions about vitamin B3 that I didn't answer, please feel free to post in the comment section below. And if you yourself have had a positive experience working with intravenous forms of vitamin B3, oral forms of these fancier types of B3 like the nicotinamide riboside or the NMN or whatnot, please feel free to post in the comment section. I'd like to hear about that. Whenever I have a patient that comes in and they've tried these things, they're on these things, I'll ask them, how are you feeling with that? Is it making you feel better? And once in a while, yes. And most of the time, no, I'm taking it because I was told it's good for me or whatnot, but it's just been not the most impactful thing. So I like to ask colleagues, hear from folks, from the interweb about, what their experience is, because I want these vitamin B3 derivatives to work well. I want more tools patients can use to feel good. I appreciate the feedback because maybe it's just, not coming from the right company or I don't know, that maybe there's something that I'm missing here. So I want that to be the case so that there's another great tool that's available, because it sounds like the best thing since sliced bread when you hear some folks talk about these special forms of vitamin B3. Just really haven't seen a whole lot of that in clinical practice to date. So I hope this was of interest, and I will leave it there for now.